Monkeys may do it, we don't. That is not civilized behavior, and that would be outrageous. Now, whether it's going to cause severe emotional or mental distress, I don't know. You have most of the elements there. You have outrageous conduct. You have the intent to cause the outrageous conduct. Does it cause that severe emotional distress? It might. Now, whenever you smell, I don't know, a barnyard or something like that, you go into shock or something. That would be as a result, most likely, of that outrageous conduct. And when we're talking about extreme, it's a little bit harder to define, but a general way to look at it is knowing or known sensibilities. For instance, known sensibilities, and I'm using this to shock, but so keep that in mind. You go up to a pregnant woman in a varnish store. They sell varnishes. You're alone, and you go up to a pregnant woman and go, "Oh my God, you need to get to the hospital really quickly. Did you see the sign that said anyone who steps foot in here that's pregnant will lose their child?" That is extreme conduct. That is extreme conduct. That behavior will likely be assumed to cause severe emotional distress. Imagine a pregnant woman hearing that. And if that pregnant woman believes it, that is extreme. The person sees the woman is pregnant, knowing that pregnant women have sensibilities regarding their pregnancy. They're protecting the life. By even joking about something about losing the child, they are reaching the level of extreme conduct. Now, notice here, it has to be a knowing, a known sensibility. So if for instance, someone walks up and says, good thing we don't have asthma, because that sign said if you have asthma, we die in here. Just making a joke. Well, if you don't know that the person has asthma, then it won't be as extreme. We're talking about known sensibilities. And it could be because the person told you, I have asthma, and then you make a joke like that. Or it could be something that's obvious to you. The person's old, the person's pregnant, it's a child. It's all situational. You just have to look at the situation. Now, when it comes to intentional infliction of emotional distress, we have that intent to cause it. But something very close to intent is recklessness, where you might not intend to cause the severe emotional distress, but it's so reckless for you to do it that it may as well be intent. And perfect example is with a pregnant woman. Maybe the guy isn't that bad. It seems like he's bad, any way you look at it. Maybe he didn't actually intend to horrify that woman. Maybe that wasn't his intent. But who cares if it was his intent? That's just clear recklessness. I mean, that's not even just a bad joke. That's an outrageously bad joke. That is recklessness. When even if you didn't intend to do it, the situation is so clear that it was not appropriate. recklessness. When we talk about intentional infliction of emotional distress, of course we have the part about harm. You know, you have to have that severe emotional or mental distress. It used to be, in a lot of states it still is, there must be some physical manifestation of the harm. That means you have tremors, you faint, some physical manifestation. But now with psychology and understanding of neurology, we recognize more of things like depression and post-traumatic stress disorder and things like that might not show clearly a physical manifestation. So now they're stretching it out, the courts are stretching it out a little bit into the emotional realm. The harm must also be a reasonable or usual physical harm. Again, we're talking about the reasonable person standard and all of these things. If you scare someone with a spider, knowing that person is deathly afraid of spiders, and the person claims that shortly after seeing the spider, his arm cracked and broke. Now what really happened is a day later, he broke his arm and his insurance doesn't want to pay for it. So he's trying to find anyone to pay for the broken arm, regardless of the ethics of the matter. You know, he feels that, well, that person needs to pay because he scared me and now I have a reason for him to pay. Well, breaking your arm based on seeing a spider, not the usual response, not the usual physical manifestation that occurs from your arachnophobia. So we're really, and aside from that, aside from the usual physical response, we're also talking about normal sensibilities. Normal sensibilities. Of course, what's the exception? Well, if someone knows that someone doesn't have normal sensibilities. The pregnant woman, the old person, the young child. We're not going to require them, we're not going to judge them against normal people. You know, a person who's not pregnant who hears that pregnant joke, well, if they go ballistic over that, that's not a reasonable reaction. That's unusual. But if it's a pregnant woman and the person can see that the person is pregnant, then that's a very usual response for someone with that particular sensibility. So usually we're talking about a reasonable response, what other people would think, unless, of course, the person has a peculiar sensibility that the defendant is aware of. All right, moving on, we're going to go to trespasses. The first one is trespass to land. A funny one. You would think intent would mean that the person would intend to trespass. No. The person needs only intend to cause the action. Only intend to cause the consequence of the action. You walk on a piece of property. You walk on ground. That's the intent, to walk on ground. If that ground is owned by another person, you have trespassed if you don't have permission to enter that property. If you are on someone's property and you didn't realize it, and the person says, "Hey, you, get off my property," and you stay there, that means you intend